because we are now ready to have the concluding panel discussion of today's conference. The panel will reflect on many of the key themes raised throughout the day. That includes regulation, patient access, sustainability, etc. And it's now my pleasure to hand over the moderation to my colleague, Lenka Součková, who will guide you throughout the panel discussion. It's yours.
Thank you very much. It's pleasure and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends. First of all, thank you for staying with us till the final session of the conference. After such an intensive and inspiring day, I think that all we can agree that the ATMP development is probably the most exciting, most complex, most or fastest developing, and most complicated areas in the modern medicine. Through the day, we heard many challenges and obstacles. So for this final session, for this discussion, we would like to move from describing problems toward discussing possible solutions. Usually, at the end of the conference, people become tired and start secretly checking the schedules, boarding passes, or how many emails are waiting in their email box after the conference. But today, I actually feel that the discussion became more and more interesting with every section. And honestly, after all these inspiring talks, I still feel that I would like to hear a little bit more. And I hope I'm not alone in this wish. So please raise your hands up if you want a little bit more. Okay, so in this case, let me warmly invite our panelists at the stage. So please, Claudia Wild, Zsofia Pusztai, Carmen Laplaza-Santos, Anna Hildago-Simon, please come to us with the stage. And finally, I would like to warmly welcome a person we have not yet formally introduced today, Anna Pataki. Anna is a patient advocate, my colleague from UPATI fellow, and Erordis alumna from Serbia. Her journey into rare disease advocacy became after her younger son was diagnosed with a rare pediatric oncology disease. And experience that later became the driving force for her work. And she's the founder as well, the Empowera Consulting, and works at the intersection of the patient-centered communication, rare disease policy, and clinical research and engagement. Thank you, everybody here, and thank you all very much for joining us. And actually, we heard a lot of about systems, regulation, manufacturing policies. And now I would like to focus again and direct your attention to the patient's perspective. So I would like to start with Anna. And the first question, how can we ensure that the patient's expectations and needs are adequately addressed in the ATMP clinical trials?
Thank you, Lenka. Thank you, ECRIN and CzechRIN, for the kind invitation. And it's a real privilege for me to attend and participate in today's International Clinical Trials Day. Well, my motivation started in 2017 when my boy had his diagnosis, and it was like normal, usual protocol. We had the therapy. It lasted for 2 years, and then we were set to go back to our normal life. And I didn't know what it meant, because you know, he's immunocompromised, and I'm in constant struggle to help him in everyday life. But only after the treatment, I was becoming aware that we had luck, that the protocol was there, the therapy was available, and that his diagnosis was in the 5% of those available for the rare disease patients. That the 95 of rare diseases doesn't have that kind of luck. And then I, if I may say, solved all our problems. And then there were parents and patients who still are struggling and trying to find all the answers. And there isn't even a therapy. There isn't even the answers to their problems. So I think the expectations for the patients are high. And from this morning, I thought my, how to say, role was irrelevant because patients were included, they are welcomed in the clinical trials, but they've been included for only 1%. And for the timeline that was few times on the screen, I recognized 2 gene therapies, Zolgensma for the SMA in 2020, and Upstaza 2022 for the AADC. I don't know if you know the fact that Serbia, the country I'm coming from, declined the participation for the Zolgensma in 2016 because the lack of the resources. So the decision makers declined the possibility of improving quality of life for patients. And only after 10 years of project, SMA is actually included into the newborn screening from September 2023 in Serbia. So all the newborns are tested for the SMA, and they are now getting the Zolgensma in Serbia today. So how to say, we need informed and empowered patients, gathered and building a community of patient organizations which are a relevant partner in communicating the needs and the benefits from the ATMPs for the clinical trials.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you. And now I would like to open the discussion for everybody. Then you prepare the question. I have one as a starting point. Where do you think that the cross-country coordination in ATMP development still needs the most improvement? Who would like to start? Please, Zsofia.
Sorry to start with, but I think from a WHO perspective, because we are working across various countries and even in our European region, it's beyond the EU. Of course, we work very closely with the European Commission, but we have 53 countries. So as I mentioned, I think we all know clearly there is a fragmentation. So how to improve it further? I want to emphasize again this kind of platform, which I think it was a breakthrough in a way, this Novel Medicines platform. You mentioned Zolgensma as a rare disease, but it's been the reason why it was a breakthrough, because it's a platform that not only brings in the countries, but it brings in the patients, it brings in the industry, and brings in the regulators, the various international, national players. So it created a kind of safe space for discussion, going through transparency, solidarity, cooperation. It's still an ongoing platform, of course, but it also helps to connect countries beyond the EU, which is very important to these shared experiences. And it also gives you, kind of not only sharing experience, but what are the lessons on how we can create better streamlined processes, because we exactly need more streamlined regulatory, legal framework, patient participation, feedback. I mean, so many layers. It's not an easy process, actually, to have all these stakeholders around the same table. And of course, we have this global platform, but I want to emphasize the European one. And it's interesting to see, actually, that my former duty station was Serbia many years ago. For some reason, it's still written there. I don't know, it's because you are not sitting next to me. But of course, I've been here in the Czech Republic for 3 years. And because you mentioned the patient involvement, I think not only involvement, empowerment of the patient. And for that, we really need to improve this kind of literacy and empower them. And I think Czech Republic is actually kind of pioneering, giving a kind of even regulatory framework for this kind of patient involvement. And I think it's a way forward. It's a great example to follow for, which is very important. And as a final solution, I wanted to bring again the AI tools, because you also mentioned the biotech and AI. And in Europe, we want to lead. But on the other hand, we have one of the strictest regulatory framework. From the WHO perspective, we consider it still very important. I know there is a very narrow baseline of, you want to bring more, but you want to regulate more. In long run, I think Europe is doing well in that perspective, because we need to keep the people trust. And with all this, there's a big hype around the AI, and I'm sorry to say, I fully believe there's a lot of enabler and a lot of, we have to compare and we have to really integrate it more. But it's also important that we keep this kind of privacy, regulatory, security aspects, because it might have implication if you give it too light, then it will materialize even in, morbidity, mortality, fractures. That would undermine the people trust of embracing this digital tools. So I think it's good to keep that narrow path, but it's better to integrate those tools also to enabling our administrative processes for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah, to complement, I think that one of the things that is necessary is funding, cross-country funding. And if I could dream, I think we should stop listening about this. Every country can only fund, the resources from its country. I think that if we would manage to really get rid of that, things would be significantly improved from the perspective of solidarity, but from the perspective of innovation, from the perspective of safeguarding clinical research in Europe. I think this should be seriously, this is something where we can only foster, but we see in all our co-funding of partnerships with member states, how much it is inefficient. All these discussions about how much you are going to put depending on where are coming the beneficiaries in the projects, it's really very inefficient. And I wonder whether we could find another model where afterwards we could find balances or something. But I think that's very inefficient and probably against the fact that cross-border trials are necessary in this field, but in many others. So I think if we could get rid of that and advocate in each country that this is not helping ultimately at long term anybody, I think that would be a good win.
Thank you. Anna?
Yes, another version on top of those two that I agree with 100%. I think what we should start thinking is that one size doesn't fit all. We really need to look at each one. So it will be some small, very rare drugs where you actually move the drug and not the patient. Some other times you have to bring all the patients to one center because it's the only one that can do it. Then we still need to sort out the money of who pays for what, but at least trying to start thinking from the patients and finding that for that condition, for that disease, and for that therapy, it makes sense to do it in one way. And that takes to my second point, which is we need to make it efficient thinking continent level. I think it was Jürgen who was making all these ideas of why can we share expertise. There is a lot more than we can share. We don't need 100 GMP facilities. Maybe we need to focus and then share the work, share the expertise, and maybe share the project. I cannot do that. I'm passing it to Belgium. Or I'm getting this from Austria and it's better to do it in Sweden. If we go into the details of how we can make it efficient at continent level, I think it will be a lot more efficient.
Yes, maybe not only continent, but maybe global level, but
step by step.
Yes, Anna, I would like to ask you another question because you are talking my language, to be honest. Absolutely, but. Well, after this conference, we will be with full of the feedbacks and the impressions. But going back to our, for instance, in my case, back to our university, and we would like to continue with the cooperation and the better development and faster development of the ATMP, what would be the advice for me or the other academics, how we can improve? Something concrete I would like to hear.
Okay, I actually would love to have that question asked to everybody, because I'm sure we are all going to have different views. Well, this is a fantastic starting point, because this is a network which already very well connected people who have the main in the same direction. So nurturing this international well-connected. I am a believer of not trying to do all at the same time. So if you find one other person and then inviting a third one and then a fourth one is much easier than trying to put together 5 and agree, 5 doctors, 6 opinions. That happens with clinical trials as well. The other thing that I would like is academics could and should link with regulators more. And it's so much to learn from each other there, and so much smoothing of the system that we can do. So I will certainly start with your national regulator, wherever it is the clinical trials, scientific advice, the conversations with the HTAs in your own hospital. What is the data that I can be collecting now that will help me to make the case to you when I'm there? Because you are going to find that the data that Claudia already knows you will need will facilitate the approval as well, will facilitate linking with other stakeholders, will facilitate even the conversations with companies. So my wish list is nurture your relations and start talking more with advisors of regulators and HTAs.
Okay, thank you. Claudia, may I ask if you could change one thing in the term of the pricing, reimbursement, or funding generally in your expertise in the HTA in Austria to better support ATMP development and patient access? What would it be? One thing.
I didn't engage in the last question because this is not my topic. My perspective is the payer's perspective, and the payer perspective is the public health perspective, to use the resources for all people and not for only a few people who have rare diseases. I know this sounds cruel, but this is another perspective, and this needs to be discussed. If I could change something tomorrow, I would go ask the European Commission to develop such a fair price clause or a non-exclusive licensing clause, like to give the legal support how to do it differently. Then I would go for regional champions like the Spanish ones or Teleton in Italy, how it is being done, and then to praise them, to give them media attention, to give the rest of us who are not the champions yet the self-confidence that it's doable, just to create counter models, counter business models. It's that there is a possibility to change something.
Mm-hmm. And we already heard from Anna that in case of the Serbia, some drugs were not eligible for, even though it was EU marketed. And from the morning presentation, we already saw a very nice table, green, red. And from the first point of view of the regulator, it seems that everything is okay because the drug is on the market. But on the other hand, the pricing and the reimbursement is another issue. And I fully understand that it is the question of money and the cost, of course, at the national level. And if we are talking about the cross-border clinical trials, there could be another issue, maybe cross-border healthcare. I mean, if the patient can travel, what do you think about them?
I can answer.
Please.
All patients should come to Austria because everything is available at all time. Meaning, when Spinraza was approved, the demand for it was so strong, and this was the hope-based demand and not the evidence-based demand. All 59 patients up to 52 years old who started to have the disease in the age of 40 received Spinraza, 500,000 euro for the first year and 250,000 for the second year. this is not how I would perceive that public money should be spent. Nobody talks, we talk about Serbia, but nobody talks about the Netherlands. The Netherlands were not as quick as Austria, that they are so fearful that the media could say we are rationing. They didn't pay for a long time because they went into negotiations and they wanted to have more data. So there are options. The option is that the public doesn't stand with the back to the wall, but to move into the driver's seat and say, we have the power. We in Europe are, how many people are we? 350 million. So we could negotiate together. We could show our power together. For this, we must overcome the fragmentation. This is the main problem. You are German.
Or formerly as a German living in the Netherlands there. I mean, negotiation, yes, but the Dutch pushed it so far that we have patients with proven efficacy where patients for years don't receive a treatment. For lymphoma, for myeloma, where patients literally die because they cannot agree on the HTA way, how to evaluate a drug, and secondly, not can agree on the price. So with all respect to my Dutch home country now, I think this is not the best way forward, but I agree on what you say that doing it together as Europe would be the power. Yeah, because it's a 300-400 million euro market. Then you would be able to negotiate together. And I know that that might maybe a way forward, although complicated.
Can I just add to that? The reason, and it's great that we talk about it, because exactly not only with the Novel Medicines platform, but also when it comes to reimbursement model and innovative, and how really to do it in an equitable way that you also have access. The access doesn't determine the geography. We have also in Brussels the European Observatory. I'm pretty sure you know it's kind of EU hosted, but it's a WHO, and it's just coming out. I couldn't share it yet because it's in the final stage, but it's going through exactly kind of analyzing the barriers and facilitators and providing good examples. And I think indeed in Europe we have this model. We just need to share it more. And that's how we call it, that we have, which are those practices that exactly we heard, you have good models or not good models, because I agree that, it has consequences, but also what is those structure, what is the financing, what is the reimbursement model, how you bring in the HTA. There are so many different experiences, but sharing it and then adopt it to your own country context, I think it's a way forward, and Europe might have some added value on that, but we have to, coming back to Germany and the Netherlands.
But in the same line, so I think all of you mentioned quite interesting numbers. So I really like, and I think it's a positive thing. I think, Claudia, you said that 2/3 of the drugs going at least to companies are coming from academia. And I think we can be proud of this. So because this means we are really doing good research, which is reaching the patient. And I liked also the presentation of my dear fellow from Germany, actually coming from Chile, that you need to prioritize a research agenda because it might be very complicated on what do we put our money. However, if we come at the end of the day to the funding, the average money now put in a startup company is decreasing, but it's still 60 million euros. So a startup company on average gets 60 million euros. If I would benchmark this against the EU funding, then this is rather modest. And if I look at the current funding rate, if you submit an EU grant, which is, I think, down to 8% now, and sitting myself in committees sometimes, this is like a lottery. This has nothing to do with selecting the best, but maybe still selecting the most luckiest one or the one with the best connection. And I think, of course, we all understand that now there are other priorities because we have a complicated world and money needs to go to other resources. But I think this is still one of the major bottlenecks.
Carmen, would like to.
Yeah, I mean, I think also with the emergence of AI, that's probably not going to improve because we are suffering of AI completely made proposals that, get into the picture. But indeed, there is a lot of interest, and I think the competition for funding is not going to improve. But I would like to bring two other issues. It's like, we are not going to have more resources. I mean, let's be honest. I don't think in the current geopolitical context, we are going to have more resources for health as much as that would be needed. And this is very sad because we are spending a lot in things that may happen. We need to be prepared for war, for many things that may happen. But there is something that is going to happen. and it's that the healthcare systems are going to collapse. That's going to happen, maybe to different degrees in different countries, but it's going to happen more in Europe than in other continents. And I think we should prepare for that, for sure. We should be ready to, and this goes through disinvesting. So we talk a lot about we don't have money for many things, can reimburse, we cannot. But I think we should also start looking at where healthcare should disinvest. And there are studies, I mean, I think the last study of OECD of 2017 was indicating that there was 25% of waste in the use of resources in healthcare. It was the last, so it seems it's not a priority to redo it, or, I mean, things like that is really shocking. Knowing that we are going to the wall, that we don't have funds to tackle the patients that desperately need, knowing that 25% of funds go through the trash bin, for me, that's shocking. And the second thing that I think we should very carefully look at as well is 7% of average success in clinical research between phase 1 and the end on biotech. I think this is something we should also try to improve. So for me, there are different considerations where probably we need also other actors, but I think Europe should take it very, very seriously. And when I mean Europe, I mean not only the European Union, I mean also the member states and the regions.
Now I understand better the focus on the prevention when the healthcare system will collapse. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't want to sound...
I only wanted to correct. The OECD said 30%, and of those 30%, 6% are estimated to go into corruption. So that's why I'm working there.
No, I'm shocked.
That's me too. Okay. Maybe I would like to as well. Maybe I'm too pushy, but I would like to ask how we can reduce the geographical inequalities to the access of the ITMP. Do you have any tip or solution suggestion? Yeah, Anna.
Thank you. Well, here's a suggestion. As a EU-PATI fellow, I would recommend for everyone to maybe try to find EU-PATI Connect, which is a matchmaking platform built up on educated and knowledgeable patient experts. So they already invested their time and energy to understand and learn more about medicine development, health technology assessment, scientific innovation, and they can maybe transfer the experience and outputs from the patient community if we want to maximize resources and try to get back into spending less and less money. And because of the language barrier, patient experts at the EU-PATI Connect have a high level of fluency in English. They are representing over 100 countries. There are, I think, more than 250 experts. So you have reliable partners within this matchmaking platform, because once again, I come from a country which is not an EU member, and my mother language is Serbian, it's not English. Sometimes including patients from different countries is maybe even harder if you are communicating with them in their third or second language.
Thank you, Anna. Anything anybody would like to add?
A little bit. So I will really think that we need to divide it by numbers. So when we are talking about the super rare, maybe one center in Europe is enough for everybody. If we are going slightly less rare, maybe you need to have 3 countries, but we really need to rationalize, and every hospital wants to treat what they have, and we should not be very proprietary. We really need to share. Now, when we are talking about large numbers, Barcelona trial was a good example. Decentralize the manufacturing in the way that you are having, because remember when we approved Jakarta, it's collected in Norway, put it in a plane, go to Philadelphia, spend there a month, coming back, landed in Ireland, do the QP release in there, then moving back to, that's not a practical or cost-efficient way to do that. And I would like to use the HTA knowledge to make those decisions, not the medical knowledge, and maybe not even the patient knowledge, which also can be very defender of what they want. I will put the economic rationale to make those decisions.
Okay, thank you very much. It is a combination of the acknowledge patient and the way how we can understand and proceed the things. But other solution could be the tech transfer and the decentralized manufacturing to be more accessible to the patient's home and hospital. I would like to share with you as well our short story from the Creatic, because I'm very proud on that we established their Center for Access for the patient to advanced treatment and try to identify the possibilities for the rare diseases patient, the open trials of label treatments. But of course, it is another, I would say, piece of the puzzle. But without these things, it would not be feasible, I would say, yeah. And so, yeah. Maybe another question related maybe more to regulation ecosystem that we already saw in the morning presentation, that the majority of the ATMP drugs were marketed based on data from the early phase clinical trials. And this is something what I'm wondering about. Why is the pathway of the ATMP different? Is there any condition? Is there any condition for exception for that? Or what do you think about these, I would say, non-equalities in comparison to ATMP and chemical, because in chemical getting approval, it is from phase 1 to phase 3, and there is no exception. In the ATMP, I would say it is only about the exceptions.
They are completely different animals. So chemicals can be copied and produced consistently, reliably, and you can measure everything. With ATMP, you are dealing with genes and cells.
Yeah.
You can't. So they will always be extremely expensive and difficult.
Mm-hmm.
We need to really agree on what is the evidence that we can all accept as a reasonable risk to move forward. And at the moment, that is a high bar, but the main thing is to protect the patients. I am really, really, really upset every time I hear those discussions that people would going to say, okay, may not work. Let's try, let's put it and give the option, these are very dangerous. If there has no evidence that they work, they should not be put in, they should be tested.
Yeah. Maybe, I understand that we need, or it is the unmet medical needs, especially in case of the ATMP, that we are trying to treat rare diseases, and that's really important to get the access the fastest as possible. But on the other hand, I'm still wondering if we don't need more robust data, at least after marketing. Yeah, please, Claudia.
Give me a reason why something has to be fast access for something you don't know anything about. It's risky. It's risky access. Why should the people with rare diseases have less rights to good evidence just to be trial pigs for something new? I could talk.
Do we have any question for the audience? Yeah.
We have an extra mic if you need.
Thanks for the very nice day. I have one question. We discuss a lot about rare diseases and ATMPs. I mean, where does European Commission and European Union stands in drug repurposing and sponsoring or promoting more drug positioning and repurposing projects?
Thank you for the very good question. We have several initiatives in the field of drug repurposing. Maybe not as much as we should, but we have several projects ongoing because we really see the power in order to deliver treatments or to deliver solutions for patients. So it's also important for us. And it's very awkward, but I'm going to have to say you goodbye because I risk of not getting to the plane.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm really sorry. It's a bit weird to live like that, but
Carmen, thank you. Definitely. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank all of you because time is gone, and I'm really sorry for that. Maybe I would like to as well summarize that from my perspective, the strongest message from this panel is that no single institution, no single country can solve this issue alone. And fortunately, thanks to the collaboration and infrastructure, such as ECRIN, for instance, we are learning how to create and make clinical trials without borders. So something more realistic. And thank you again, panelists, for your active contribution, and audience for the excellent discussion. Thank you.
That is very